Welcome to Chamber Champions. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, Utah's voice for business. Each week, we take the opportunity to speak with leaders from business, government, education, and community service organizations who are making a difference in Utah. As a Chamber Champion, these individuals are recognized for their contributions and provided a forum to empower their vision and objectives. We're joined today with Andy Carroll, who is the Chief Business Officer for Real Salt Lake. Andy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Derek. Appreciate it.
You know, I don't need to tell you, because you've been in the sports business for a long time, that this idea of competitive sports, it goes back to really the beginning of written history. There's not a time in the history that we know of in the world that we haven't had competitive sports. But like every other industry and almost everything else in the world, it was disrupted by this pandemic. And I'd love to start by hearing from you what Real Salt Lake has been doing, like every other business and probably every other sports team, to make adjustments.
Sure, thanks. Yes, I mean, disruption would be an understatement. I mean, obviously, sports came to a screeching halt. We have been at the tip of the spear in trying to get sports back. And we think that is not only good for the players and the teams, but it's good for the communities. I was in Spain last year in the middle of 1,000 miles from Rome, standing in a Roman Colosseum right next to an amphitheater, literally right next to an amphitheater. So 2,000-year-old entertainment district. And I can tell you that it was both humbling as well as just left a mark on me that how important this is to communities. So as we I think when you see some of the disruption in our country right now and divisiveness, I think it is definitely can be attributed to the fact that we don't have much sports and entertainment, and so as soon as we can get back to that, I think that it is good not only for our local community and our local citizens, but also on a national and international basis.
I loved what you said about some of the divisiveness that we see in the country now may be tied to the fact that we don't have our sports teams to root for. It reminded me that when I was in college, I read an essay one time in a cultural geography class that the author of this essay postulated that one of the reasons that we haven't divided as a country since the Civil War was because we had regional sports teams to root for, and that was the outlet that we had to both grow together as a community as well as to compete with other communities.
Sure, of course. No, I mean, it really is impactful on our own personal lives as well as the community.
Let's take that idea and make it specific to Real Salt Lake, and tell us what you think Real Salt Lake means to this community.
Well, I think it means a lot. Obviously, we have a very young demographic, and we have a lot of kids, and we have one of the highest penetration of youth soccer players in the country on a per capita basis. So it's always been a big soccer community. We get a lot of the missionaries that'll go around to very soccer-centric parts of the world and get exposed. So bringing soccer to Utah, it has been very important, and when you come out there on a Saturday night and listen to all the fans singing the Believe chant, and it's powerful, and people are missing that. So we've been working very hard to make sure that we get our women's team back and our men's team back, both men's teams, and that we also have brought in Major League Lacrosse or Premier League Lacrosse, so PLL, with the help of the Utah Sports Commission, and again, bringing sports back to not only our community but to our nation is very important.
So Major League Baseball games have started again. The NBA will start their official games this week.
Sure.
We're talking about the NFL starting in the fall and what that looks like. And Top of mind for everyone, of course, is player safety. I assume that has to be top of mind for you as well. What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you that it's very difficult. As anyone who has been dealing with COVID-19 will tell you that it is hard to predict. It is so it is the protocols and the planning and the discipline that is necessary to successfully get these tournaments off, and the testing is extraordinary. It's so significant that I think most people would really would underestimate all of the work planning, whether you're talking about the administration, the players, the medical staff. Really extraordinary amount of work and planning. And I think, as you see with Major League Baseball right at the moment, that if one mistake can really have a negative effect, a negative impact on tons of planning, and you're seeing the schedule get changed, and so it's an extraordinarily difficult challenge. I think Major League Soccer has done a great job down in Orlando. I think the NBA is obviously going to do a good job. We were very successful. I mean, so successful with the NWSL, where we had not one positive test. So we had no disruption. We're the only ones to do that. So that tournament just finished up. We just saw that the women's game, women's final match on Sunday had the highest television ratings for any women's professional sports match in our country. So that kind of impact and that effect and our ability to bring sports back is very important, and it's a very big challenge.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you so much.
That is quite the feat. I've spent my career in economic development, which can also be a competitive field. When I worked for Governor Huntsman, I helped to run the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And one of the things we did was recruiting business to the state of Utah, which, as I said, was competitive.
Very competitive, absolutely.
And the one thing that we always held out as our competitive advantage was this spirit of collaboration and cooperation in Utah, this idea of public-private partnerships and how we work together. Tell me, how does that work in here with Real Salt Lake, or maybe broader with MLS, this idea of collaborating and public-private partnerships?
Well, first of all, Utah, there's nothing like it. I mean, it really is amazing how we all work together, and I think that's just part of the fabric of this community. And I think this has been a community that has overcome challenges and been independent and made things happen beyond what people might think is possible. So I think so working with local, state government, the Sports Commission. I mean, the Utah Sports Commission does an amazing job just in the fact that that is how important sports is, right, to our community. Whether we've had the Olympics, we've had sports is an integral part of Utah's community, and everybody gets it. From the governor to county officials, and everyone was so helpful and so cooperative, and that is the only reason that we were able to do it. I mean, we were the first when the women played, the first team sport back playing in the United States. Again, not one test, not one positive test. So couldn't happen without without the partnership that we have between government and local companies. And I also want to say that our corporate partners have been amazing. And the one thing that we do get is most of our, and you know how it is to be competing for businesses in Utah, and you got to go out there and work hard and scrap and be better than the next guy. We wouldn't be here without our local support of our partners. We don't get national partners. No one is coming to Utah saying, "Oh my gosh, I got to have Utah, or I'm not going to hit my numbers." Sponsorship and support is local. And I think we have the best local partners in the country. I would put them against anybody. And again, it comes down to the fabric of our community. So we wouldn't be here as a team without our local partners and our state government and our local government. Literally would not be here. And we certainly would not have been able to pull off these return to play tournaments, without the absolute incredible support and cooperation that we have from all the stakeholders.
When we were talking earlier about this community spirit and, what sports means to the community and what Real Salt Lake and the Monarchs mean to this community, and you referenced, the fans in the stadium, what can fans expect as far as, a stadium experience in the future goes? And I ask you this question because you really have been, this is an organization that's been on the leading edge. And as you mentioned, the first two major league games by the Monarchs. And so I'm sure you're thinking about this and figuring out how do we do this safely?
Yes, we've been thinking about it a lot. We have put together a great plan. We've revised that plan since we had the great opportunity to have host the Monarchs game, go live, have proof of concept with some of our things. Again, done very successfully, but it's a different experience. We have thought through every plan from how you get your ticket scanned to how do you park and where do you park. It'll be different for our fans from the perspective that, theoretically we'll have about 5,300 people in the stadium, and you won't necessarily be in your seats. So there's, we're all as human beings very routine and very used to doing things the way that we've done it, and there's certainly going to be some disruption. But the main focus that we've had is how do we do it safely, how do we do it responsibly, and how do we do it so that our fans can have a great experience at Rio Tinto Stadium. We have left no stone unturned, I can tell you that, and we've had the ability to revise our plan.
You use the term proof of concept, which obviously is a great business term. As you think about the proof of concept, the planning that you've gone through, the execution that you've gone through, the adjustments that you've needed to make, what could other sports franchises learn from the experience that you've had?
Sure. Well, first, we've been happy to share with other MLS clubs and with regards to my colleagues in other markets, we're very competitive on the pitch, and we're collaborators off the pitch. Obviously, it's for the good of the game, good of sport, good of our communities. So we have shared a lot of our details, and likewise, we've had some that are going through the same process and sharing that information. And I think all the leagues have been very helpful. So when we look at Seattle Sounders, for example, they play in the stadium that the Seahawks play in. So we've had some insight into how they are approaching it. So we're all in this together. I mean, sports fans are, but we've made some interesting assessments. One of the things, I'll give you a perfect example, is you find out when people are leaving their seats, they particularly when they've been in their seats with their masks on, they have their plastic water bottle, and the first thing that they're looking for is recycling. Now, that's not normally an issue, but you want to make sure that you're able to maintain that social distancing by having lots of receptacles available for them, because that is, again, human nature. Another thing is to remind people that they have to keep their masks on all the way into their car or to their car, because the first thing a human being wants to do is, after you've been sitting in a soccer match for 2 hours, is as soon as you get out of the stadium, pull your mask off. Well, that would, again, this virus is very persistent, and we need to make sure that we are more diligent than the virus. So these are just some of the observations that we saw that we were able to share with, able to make adjustments to, and then and make plans and protocols to address, and then also to be able to share with our colleagues actually none of our clubs, fellow clubs, have been able to do it. So again, this is real time, real live learning of again, it's human nature. So.
Well, thank you for the leadership role that you're playing in this very important endeavor. And Andy, thanks for joining us on our video today.
Thanks for having me, Derek. Certainly appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you out at Rio Tinto Stadium sometime soon.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you.
Thanks.